Hey there, welcome in. My name is Mike DeJohn, and this is Soundstage EDU. This show exists for the people behind the programs. The parents, the directors, the volunteers, the ones carrying things that most people never see. We talk about the real stuff here. Booster culture, leadership, burnout, governance, and what it actually takes to build something that lasts for the kids. So if you're in it, you're in the right place. But before we jump in, just a couple of quick things. If this show has helped you, even once, follow it, save it, come back to it. There are a lot of episodes here, and chances are something you're dealing with right now, we've probably already talked about it. And if you know someone else in your program, another parent, board member, or director who's in the middle of it with you, share this with them. Because these conversations, well, they hit different when you're not the only one hearing them. All right. Let's get into it. So there's a moment happening right now in fine arts education that I think every parent, every educator, every booster leader, and honestly, every citizen in a community needs to sit with for just a moment. And it's not because it's a simple thing. And it's certainly not because it's politically convenient, but because it reveals something deeper about what the arts actually are and what happens when people become afraid of them. I came across an article this morning, and it kind of caught me off guard. We've seen a lot of situations lately where certain groups are overreaching, or it seems like they're overreaching, or there's conflict where there doesn't need to be conflict. You know what I'm talking about. There might be some of you out there that watch the news or plug into the news far deeper than I do. It's just kind of like a passive thing for me. In the morning, I'm drinking my coffee, I'm scrolling through news, watching the news. I don't read it anymore, but I mean, you know what I mean. Every once in a while, you see something that just makes you go, what? What are we doing? What's going on here? And because I have a tendency to look for patterns in human behavior, it's really what this was. It's a piece of a pattern that I've noticed for a while, but just never really articulated or spoke about out loud. Sometimes in my own house, but not really. But this is what I came across today. There's a school board in Wisconsin that's considering pulling a wind ensemble piece from a spring concert just days before performance because of its connection to LGBTQ plus history. Not lyrics, not profanity, not some overt stage production. We're talking about an instrumental wind ensemble piece. And before everybody listening immediately picks a political side, I need you to hear me clearly. This episode is not about telling you what political party to belong to. This is not about forcing beliefs on anybody. This is not about winning culture wars. This episode is about something much, much bigger. It's about whether the arts are allowed to explore humanity anymore. Because once we decide that music can only exist if it's sanitized, agreeable, emotionally safe, and ideologically pre-approved by adults, we're no longer teaching art. We're teaching compliance. And there is a difference. Music has never existed merely to decorate life. Our music, our art form, has always documented humanity. The messy parts, the painful parts, the revolutionary parts, grieving parts, hopeful parts. You know, the parts that society did not want to look at directly. That is literally what art has done for thousands of years. The spirituals sung by enslaved people. Protest music during the civil rights movement. Shostakovich, composing under Soviet oppression. Folk music, documenting labor struggles. Jazz emerging from suffering and resilience. Musical theater confronting AIDS, war, race, identity, addiction, violence, grief, and trauma. Even drum corps shows about mental health. Indoor percussion productions about isolation and anxiety. Choirs performing pieces about genocide, migration, and injustice. Art reflects humanity. It always has. I've talked about this point more than once. That art forms are oftentimes a voice of protest in a society. And if we only allow our students to perform music that is emotionally neutral and historically sterile, then answer me this. What exactly are we teaching them? Because here's what worries me. I think that we're entering a period where adults increasingly want art to exist only if it never makes them uncomfortable. And that's dangerous territory, in my opinion. Not because discomfort itself is a noble thing, nor is it because every controversial piece is automatically educational genius, but because once fear becomes the primary filter for education, education itself starts collapsing inward. Now let me say something else carefully, because nuance matters. Okay? Parents absolutely have the right to ask questions. School boards absolutely have oversight responsibilities, and communities absolutely have a right to discuss curriculum and programming. That's not the problem here. The problem that I'm seeing is when reaction overtakes process. When fear overtakes educational intent. The problem is when adults who often have little understanding of arts education begin reducing every artistic decision into a political loyalty test. And unfortunately, we are seeing more and more of that. Now, what struck me most about this story was not even the disagreement itself. It was the timeline. Months of preparation. Months. Students investing emotionally and musically into difficult literature. A director communicating ahead of time. Parents being notified. Students learning the piece. Studying it. Preparing it. Only for the possibility that 6 days before the concert, adults may decide that the entire thing is too controversial to exist publicly. Now, do you understand the message that sends to the students? I'm not talking just about this topic. I'm talking about the message that it sends to students about the art itself. It teaches them that artistic expression is conditional upon adult comfort. It teaches them that preparation and excellence may still be erased if politics enter the room loudly enough. It teaches them that fear is more powerful than educational process. And some people listening are already comfortable with where I'm going. And that's good. These types of pieces are not meant to be comfortable. The whole point of this show is not to make you comfortable. And that might be my fault or my downfall. But sometimes these uncomfortable things are things that need to be discussed. So if you've made it this far and you're already finding it uncomfortable, good. Then stay with me. Because this is where I want to pivot. One of the committee comments in this story said that music should be uplifting and celebratory. Honestly, I understand the instinct behind that statement. I do. Especially right now. The world is, it's exhausting. People are tired. Politics are everywhere. It's even kind of entered into this podcast. I'm apolitical. I really have no position. My focus is my family. My focus is the kids that I impact. Politics are of no interest to me. But people are tired because politics are everywhere. And people want beauty. They want escape. They want joy. And music absolutely can be uplifting and celebratory. But here's the part I want to point out. Music is allowed to mourn. It's allowed to question, provoke thought. It absolutely should document struggle and carry historical memory. Because let's be real, some of the most beautiful music ever written came directly out of pain. You cannot separate humanity from art. I mean, you just can't. Now let me say something that may surprise some people. I actually think that many of these conflicts are not truly about music at all. I think that on some level, they're about trust. Our communities no longer trust institutions. Parents no longer trust schools. Schools no longer trust parents. Boards no longer trust teachers. Teachers no longer trust boards. Everybody feels like somebody is trying to sneak some sort of ideology into the room. And once trust erodes, everything becomes some sort of symbolic warfare. Even the music that the band plays. And then social media makes it infinitely worse because nobody reads deeply anymore. They don't. Nobody asks, what is the educational goal? What is the musical complexity? What was communicated? What accommodations were offered? What standards were followed? Instead, people screenshot headlines, rage post, and mobilize emotionally within minutes. And then adults wonder why arts educators are burning out. Because imagine being that director. You chose a musically challenging piece. You followed policy. You communicated ahead of time. You created opt-out opportunities. You connected interdisciplinary learning, which, by the way, it's exactly what strong arts education does. And now suddenly your concert is a political battlefield. That's exhausting. And I need parents listening to hear this carefully. Your directors, they're human beings. Most of them are not trying to indoctrinate kids. Most of them are trying desperately to create meaningful educational experiences while surviving impossible expectations from every freaking direction. And yeah, sometimes educators make mistakes. Sometimes programming choices miss the mark. I'm no stranger to that. Sometimes communities genuinely need discussion. But if every difficult artistic choice immediately becomes accusations, outrage, ideological warfare, eventually teachers stop taking artistic risks altogether. And when that happens, arts education becomes hollow, becomes predictable and safe and emotionally dead. And now here's what's... Look, a lot of adults out there claim they want students prepared for the real world. That's where this gets uncomfortable. They want critical thinkers, emotionally intelligent citizens, empathetic leaders, people who understand history and complexity. But then the second art touches a difficult human topic, everybody panics. You cannot ask students to become thoughtful humans while simultaneously shielding them from all the difficult human themes. That's not how maturity works. That's not how education works. There needs to be friction. And honestly, this is one reason that the arts matter so much. Because music allows us to encounter difficult ideas emotionally before we encounter them politically. And that matters. A student performing a challenging work is not automatically being recruited into some ideology. Sometimes they're learning empathy, historical context, musical interpretation. Sometimes they're simply learning that humanity is complicated. And we all know that it absolutely is complicated. Now, before anybody twists this episode into something it's not, let me be crystal clear. Schools should absolutely maintain age appropriateness. They should absolutely communicate transparently. They should allow parent dialogue. And schools should absolutely avoid partisan activism masquerading as curriculum. I believe all of that strongly. But there's a massive difference between educational exploration and ideological coercion. And increasingly, it seems people refuse to acknowledge that distinction. Everything becomes binary. Everything becomes tribal. Everything becomes, you're either fully with us or fully against us. There's no gray areas. There's no room for discourse. I even saw that recently play out in my own community over a civic topic. There's a discussion of a large industrial building being proposed. Well, it was a data center. We'll just go there. It's a proposal from a company to build a data center on the edge of my town. Two camps formed quickly. One for, one against. 100% steeped in emotion. 100% binary. 100% tribal culture coming out in the community. If you were either pro-town, I guess you could say it, no to the data center. You were either 100% against it, doing everything loudly to block the approval of the application, or, this is what killed me, you were for poisoning our children. That's where they went. You're either against it or you hate kids and you want to kill them. You're either against it or you're for hurting our kids. There was literally no discourse in the city. None. And all along, the decision had been made, but the people still, the tribal side of the community wanted something to fight about. That's kind of what I see happening inside of the arts environments. You're either for us or against us. Arts suffocate in environments like that. So I want to talk directly to boosters and parent organizations for a minute, because this matters deeply for governance culture. Moments like this can fracture communities fast. I mean, fast. Think about what happened at Westfield. The community there didn't fracture, but they could have. I haven't even checked back in on that one, but that one stirred up divisiveness across the country. And this one's just, to me, I think this was a new story. It could have been rehashed. I don't think it is, because their concert's on the 12th. But I have a feeling this one will pick up some traction. And what happens, I mean, when the community starts to fracture, parents will turn against the directors. Boards will turn against teachers. Social media groups explode. Now, I didn't see this one in a social media group. I saw it as a standalone post, but it's coming, I'm sure. Rumors start flying. People start recording meetings. Everybody becomes convinced that they're defending children while simultaneously tearing apart the adults that are trying to support them. And in those moments, in those heated moments, governance matters. Process matters. Communication matters. Emotional regulation matters. Because if your organization only functions when everyone agrees, then your organization is not actually healthy. Healthy communities survive disagreement without dehumanization. That's the goal. Not ideological purity, not unanimous thinking, but mature disagreement. That is what healthy governance looks like. And honestly, the arts should be one of the places where communities practice that maturity. Not avoid it. Not fear it. But practice it. Because at the end of the day, the thing haunting me most about this story is the students. The kids. Not the headlines, not the politics, but the students who spent months preparing something meaningful together. Students who, quite honestly, probably just wanted to make music. Who trusted adults to guide them responsibly. And now they are learning a lesson far bigger than concert literature. They're learning how adults behave under pressure. They're learning how communities handle discomfort. They're learning whether fear overrides process and whether art is safe only when it's shallow. And whether we realize it or not, and I've said this many times in many other episodes and many other blog posts, they are watching us. They're learning from us. They're going to grow up and mirror the things that we're doing right now. The cycle will never stop. Every comment section, every board meeting, every screaming match, every sarcastic Facebook post, every accusation, they are watching. And if I can leave you with one thing today, it's this. Be careful what you teach students about the purpose of art. Because once society starts demanding that art never challenge, never question, never document difficult humanity, never explore emotional complexity, art stops being art. It becomes decoration. And the arts were never meant to merely decorate society. They were meant to help us understand it, even when that understanding feels uncomfortable, especially then. This is Soundstage EDU. And if this conversation resonates with you, if you're tired of watching fine arts programs become battlegrounds instead of bridges, I want you to join us, because these conversations matter. Not just for music, not just for theater, not just for band, but for culture, for students, for communities, and for the future of what education is supposed to be in the first place.